Alright, Fortnite, the new update is cool, but those Tom Cruise Edge of Tomorrow suits are a bit much.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball. I'm going to be looking back at the rest of the Dynasty rookie rankings, number 40 through to number 1 after Summer League, with some adjustments made for some players. Not huge amount of adjustment at the top because a lot of those guys didn't even play, and as I mentioned in yesterday's show where we did the bottom 40 of the top 80 rankings, I don't want to stray massively from what I did pre-draft because a 3-game, 4-game, 1-game, 2-game sample size in Vegas isn't enough for me to change my mind on a whole bunch of stuff after 40 games, 60 games, 100 games in college or European leagues, whatever it is. There's a lot more predictability in those numbers versus 3 games in Summer League where some weird sort of shooting can throw things off. But there are certain things that are useful to look for in Summer League, and that's where a lot of the adjustments have been made in these rankings. So, Michael Bolton,
let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed. Before we do get into the rankings, a quick reminder, everyone in the Red Rock Dynasty Leagues, your rookie drafts have started. A few of those have gone. They're in, I guess. We have like 3 picks in, 7 picks in, 8 picks in. I just made my first pick in one of the 30-team leagues at pick number 7 in the rookie draft. I chose Jarrett Culver. It was down to Culver and Garland with that pick. I went with Culver with that selection. So it was good. I had him at number 6, which is a bit of a spoiler for later on in the show. I've got him at 6. I got him at 7. Happy with that. The big, I guess, from the early takeaway from the drafts I've seen, everything has basically gone as expected in most areas, with the big rise of being Jackson Hayes going in top 6, top 7 in a lot of cases, which is not exactly where I have him. But yeah, the Summer League performance from Jackson Hayes has really shown in those draft results so far. Reminder, Red Rock Challenge information will be coming out. It might come out today. It might be next week, about how you can enter all of those leagues. Going to Patreon subscribers first, they'll get about a 1-week lead time on other people to join those leagues, so that'll be posted over on patreon.com. So become a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/redrock_bball. And all those details will be posted over there. You also get access to a Slack chat group with all the other Patreon subscribers and, of course, myself in there. But let's get into looking at these rankings, my re-rankings of these Dynasty players. Anyone that you disagree with, tweet at me, leave it in the YouTube comments. You know, plenty of ways to get in contact with me. Do that on Instagram as well, at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. And you can go in and let me know where you think I'm wrong or right, or you know, if I'm completely stupid, which, of course, is probably going to be the answer to a lot of these questions. Let's have a look at number 40. It's a player who's not in the NBA for this coming season, Didi Louzada of the New Orleans Pelicans. He's actually going to be playing down here in Australia. I thought he looked really good for the Pelicans during Summer League. We're not going to see him this year because he's going to be playing in Sydney, but in the 4 games that he played, 27 minutes a night, 11 points, 44% shooting, good steal rate, shot 44% on his threes, and he looked like he can be a rotation level wing. Whether he can ever get to be a starter, I'm not sure, but wings who can shoot, who can play some passable defense, and I think Louzada can probably play more than passable defense, makes him an interesting player. So I've got him there at number 40, bumped down a bit just because of the stash, and I'm not sure how high his ceiling actually is. At number 39, Justin Robinson of the Washington Wizards. I talked about this in the Mailbag show a couple of days ago, saying that there's a real chance that by the end of the season, he is actually the Wizards' best point guard. Signed to a guaranteed, I think, 4-year deal after the draft, despite going undrafted. There's Ish Smith and Isaiah Thomas on that team. He only averaged about 9 points per game with 4 rebounds and 4 assists, but a good steal rate. The shooting was not great, 34%, but still hit 77% of his free throws. 33% of his 3-pointers as well, which is pretty strong. And I do like what Robinson can do. He is a name to watch, and if he gets that opportunity this year, of course, John Wall's still around. But if they're going to be looking to blow things up and trade Bradley Beal, Wall could be next on the way out, and there could be a real opportunity for Robinson. He's actually dropped rankings, but that's to what he did in Summer League. It's more that some of the guys I had behind him really stepped up. At number 38, Jalen LeCue of the Phoenix Suns, another guy who went undrafted but was immediately signed to a long-term deal post-draft. LeCue showed, well, for a Suns team that just really didn't have much excitement going at all in Summer League, he provided a bit of that. 9 points in 19 minutes, shot the ball pretty well from the line, 86%, a solid steal rate, 1.3 steals in only 19 minutes is good. The passing is still a lot to work on there. The three-point shooting is going to be an issue, but he is young. He's really young. He's only just turned 19. The Suns have got Ricky Rubio, the ravishing one, as their point guard at the moment, but he's not a long-term solution there for the next couple of years. But LeCue's an interesting guy long-term. We're always looking for point guards who can provide long-term value, and that's why LeCue and Robinson are here in the top 40, despite the fact that they went undrafted in the NBA draft. At number 37, one of the bigger risers that I had through my re-rankings here, and that is Keldon Johnson of the San Antonio Spurs. He's jumped up 7 spots up to number 37, averaged 12 points with 4 rebounds, shot 46% from the field, 80% from the line, and 33% from 3. Some of this is to do with positional scarcity, and wings who can play are valuable in the NBA. Now, he came out as one of the worst translatable players in the entire pool of drafted guys. A horrible rebound rate, assist rate, steal rate, block rate. 3-and-D player who provided no defense. But I thought he looked pretty solid in Summer League. 12 points in 22 minutes is obviously a really strong return there. The shooting was strong. It's still, look, the lack of assists is poor. 0.4 assists is not good. Summer League's not the greatest area to be able to generate assists, but he needs to be able to do more than that. And that's the sort of thing that held back his college translation numbers. But he looked better than I expected. And again, Kentucky guys, we see these players get held back by Calipari and his system. And there's a possibility that Keldon could be one of those guys who starts to thrive. I wouldn't expect much, if anything, at all this season from him in San Antonio, but it was a really strong performance from Keldon Johnson in Summer League, and that caused him to move up a little bit in my rankings. At number 36, another high riser, and that is a guy that's jumped 11 spots, Ignace Dacus of the New York Knicks. Now, there were times when Dacus looked like the best rookie on the Knicks, and that was a team that did include RJ Barrett. He played 29 minutes a game and averaged 18 points with 5 rebounds, hit almost 3 threes, shot the ball really well. The 58% shooting from 3 is not something that's going to be able to stick, but a guy that was super aggressive, again, outplayed Barrett in a couple of those games. Getting an opportunity in New York with all of the big men on that roster that they brought in might be tough this season. But this is one for in the future where you could see Dacus as a really aggressive scoring type of guy. It needs to work on some of the defensive stats that is probably going to end up holding him back. But an efficient scorer who can be quite aggressive offensively is something that is useful. And we're looking 2-3 years down the track here for Dacus, who I don't think again is going to play huge amounts this season. What will get a huge amount of play this season is using your razor or your precision grooming tools from Manscaped. Number 1 in men's below-the-belt grooming. You might have seen them on Shark Tank. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. When you want to shave your ball sack, make sure you're looking at Manscaped. 20% off and free shipping with the code LOCKEDON at manscaped.com. That's 20% off at manscaped.com by using the promo code LOCKEDON. All right, let's go on to the next guy we're going to look at here is at number 35, John Konchar. Didn't move in my rankings, but just basically provided everything that we thought he would during his time at Summer League. Such a weird player in terms of what he's able to do in statistics. His numbers were pretty. Now, he only averaged 4.6 points per game. Now, that's obviously not huge amounts for Konchar, but 7.4 rebounds, half a 3.5 assists, 3 steals, and a block. That's where these numbers come in. Think about like a very early career James Johnson, whose scoring often lacked, but he was just able to do everything in every other area. Konchar as a guy who on this Grizzlies team, an analytics darling, and just showed everything that those analytics and his college play would indicate that he'd be able to do. He's never going to be a high scoring guy. A good actually example is someone on that team, someone like Kyle Anderson, not a high scorer, but can rebound, assist, steal and block. And Conchar is that. Now he's a long way away, but really what he was able to do in Summer League and just be a very, very good basketball player, which also translates into the box score outside of that scoring category, is really interesting for fantasy and can be one of those interesting fantasy glue guys, more for category leagues than points leagues, of course. Because in points leagues, they're almost always heavily influenced by the scoring and the points category, because 1 point normally equals 1 point, and players who average 20 points, you get 20 there, because you're not getting that amount from those other categories, and you're all well aware of that. So Conchar's value goes down there, but he was really, really solid during his time in Summer League and looked to be the guy that we all hoped that he would become. At the next spot, which is number 34, Luka Samanic of the San Antonio Spurs. I didn't like the pick of Samanic on draft day, pick number 19. He didn't do much to totally excite me in Summer League. 22 minutes, 10 points, 6 boards. The shooting wasn't great, 36% from the field, but he got to the line a lot. That's impressive. He showed a lot more of that in his workout, that aggression going towards the rim. Hit his free throws well. Again, just as so often is the case in this class of draftees, especially big men who don't block shots. That's another one. That's what Samanic is. A guy that, only 0.6 blocks, and that was one of the concerns coming across. He shot the 3 ball well. He shot it often, and that's a good sign. But again, Spurs rookies getting that opportunity behind Jakob Poeltl, behind LaMarcus Aldridge, Damari Carroll playing the 4 at times as well. We're not going to see much of Samanic, and I don't have massively high hopes for him. A guy who I thought looked pretty good out there was Mfiondu Kabengele of the LA Clippers. Now, opportunities for him behind Ivica Zubac and Montrezl Harrell are going to be few and far between. But the concerns with his knee didn't seem to be all that apparent, which is great news. 26 minutes, 17 and 8, hit 2 threes a game, which is really, really important. And adding a decent enough scorer with good rebounding, good shot blocking, 1.5 blocks, and high 3-point volume as a good free throw shooter as well. There's a lot to like about Kabengele. Now, will the opportunity ever arise for him to be a 30-minute-a-night center? That's probably not going to happen, but think of a guy like a Luke Cornett, a guy that came in and can play 24, 25 minutes and be this 3-point shooter, can block shots, can rebound a little bit. Kabengele maybe has that ability to be an influencer if that opportunity does arise. And I thought he looked pretty good out there. So even though he's in at number 33 and dropped 1 spot, it's again because of people have risen above him. A guy that I dropped quite a bit was Darius Bazley of the Oklahoma City Thunder, a player that didn't play at all last season as he was interning for New Balance. He didn't really do a huge amount in Summer League to excite me that much. I've dropped him down 6 spots down to number 32. He is still just 19, so there is a benefit of the doubt that you can give him there. 5 points and 4.5 rebounds on a Thunder team that wasn't exactly stacked. Only a 3 a game, which he hit at 43%, so that's pretty good. Low assist rebounds. 1.3 block shots is interesting. 0.8 steals was okay from Bazley, but he just looked lost a lot of the time. Now, some of that I attribute to his age, so I'm giving him a bit of the benefit of the doubt here. But he wasn't overly impressive during his time. Number 31 is Cam Johnson from the Phoenix Suns. We didn't get to see Cam Johnson play, unfortunately, because he wasn't acclimated with his team. So if only there was some sort of summer tournament where he could get in with the team and learn some of their systems and play with his teammates, that would have been ideal for him. Unfortunately, Phoenix didn't see Las Vegas as being that opportunity for him. So we didn't see Cam Johnson. He's already about 35 years of age and about 1 year away from retirement, so I don't really see long-term value in him. Now, to be fair to him, that's obviously an over-exaggeration, but as a 3-point specialist type of a guy, there is some value, but playing the same position as Devin Booker or McCall Bridges or Kelly Oubre, whichever one of those positions you think he's going to play, the minutes upside is never going to be there, and the statistical upside isn't there for Cam Johnson. And looking at it again here, I could easily see myself pushing him behind Kabengele, behind Conchar, behind Dacus as well, even Justin Robinson or Didi Luzada. Maybe I'm being a little bit too generous putting Cam Johnson at 31. Another player we didn't see, Romeo Langford of the Boston Celtics, 30th overall here. Didn't get to see him. Carson Edwards obviously shone. I think Edwards is going to have that spot in the rotation ahead of ahead of Langford this season. I don't think we're going to see much Romeo Langford at all for Boston. He'll be that guy who's not in their regular 10-man rotation. You'll see a little bit of him with the main Red Claws, and he'll come in and out and play spot minutes. But a guy whose shooting was really, really poor. Now attacks the rim really well and finishes around the rim really well, but a wing who doesn't pass, doesn't shoot well, there are definite concerns with Langford, and I did not like the pick of him in the draft, and obviously Summer League did nothing to change my opinion because he didn't play. At number 29, Dylan Windler of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, Windler was one of those guys, much like John Concha, whose college numbers looked really, really good. And you go, well, how are they going to translate from Belmont? Is he going to be able to do those same sort of things? Now, it wasn't quite the same as Concha, but still, Windler looked good. 11 points per game, 5 rebounds, hit his threes, which is what his value is, almost two threes a game. Now, he was a massive rebounder at Belmont. That didn't really translate over, and it was always going to be hard for that to translate over. But on this Cavs team, who's bad, really bad when you're looking at their rotation. Kevin Love, always rumoured to be on the trade block. Tristan Thompson, could he be getting moved at some point? Could Windler come in and play some 3 with Chetty Osman moving up to the 4 at points during this season? I expect Windler to start at least a couple of games. This is a team that started Jerron Blossom game multiple games last season, so I could absolutely see Windler playing. He knows how to play, he can shoot, and he can contribute in other categories. So I liked what I saw from Windler. At 28, Nick Claxton of the Brooklyn Nets. Now, it's a bit of a stretch for Claxton to be able to be an impact guy this season, or really any point in the immediate future with DeAndre Jordan and Jarrett Allen there. 16 minutes a night, 6 and 5. 61% shooting. He shows some ability with his dribble moves and some fluidity. The shot blocking wasn't quite there in Summer League, but I do believe Claxton in a couple of years' time, maybe he approaches a poor man's Clint Capella type of a player, a guy that can block shots, can rebound and finish at a high rate, a worse Jackson Hayes, so to speak. But I like Claxton there at number 28. At number 27, Ty Jerome from the Phoenix Suns. I dropped him down 4 spots. He didn't play, so he did nothing to be able to impress me in that regard. I wasn't massive on that pick. At pick number 24, opportunity for him. Could Jalen LeCue end up being better than Jerome? Maybe. No, Jerome could be a starter at some point in a couple of years for Phoenix, depending on what happens with Rubio. But just more the other guys jumping ahead of him is what dropped him down. Another guy jumping up, Daniel Gafford, moved up 2 spots to number 26. I moved him ahead of Nick Claxton. He looked really, really good in Summer League, Gafford. Absolutely dominated the first game against the Lakers. Finished with 14 and 8 with almost 3 blocks on 68% shooting. He was unstoppable on lobs and alley-oops, combining with Kobe White quite a bit, blocking shots really well. Now, of course, in Chicago, Wendell Carter Jr., Lauri Markkanen, Thaddeus Young, they're your top 3 big men. So where does Gafford fit in there? They signed Luke Cornett. Can Gafford be the backup center? Will they give those minutes to Cornett? Not worried about Chris Felicio. But in the coming years, Gafford is a guy that can come in and be a 20-minute-a-night sort of a player, could be a trade chip, and I could see him being a starter on an NBA team. Probably not the Bulls, but he looked really, really good out there. The high shot blocking, high field goal percentage, good rebounding, solid scoring type of player. He looked really good. Kevin Porter Jr. of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Didn't see Porter play at all. I'm really concerned about this guy. Now, maybe at 25 I had him too high. I have him too high. I've dropped him down 3 spots. Maybe that's not far enough. I could easily see Gafford being better than him. I could see Windler being better than him. I could see him falling very easily outside the top 40. So it's a little bit of an upside play. A guy that shot the 3 ball really well in college. A piss poor free throw percentage. I don't know why I said free throw like that. A piss poor free throw percentage. I just don't know about Porter, and nothing that we saw, because we didn't see him, was able to dispel that. Talen Horton-Tucker dropped 4 spots down to number 24 of the Lakers. Horton-Tucker didn't play. Again, so many of these guys just didn't play. I still believe in Horton-Tucker, just a weird body shape type of a guy, a weird statistical type of a guy, but I think can develop into a solid enough player. It's going to take time on this Lakers squad, especially after they brought back Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, brought in Avery Bradley, brought in Danny Green, retained Kyle Kuzma, LeBron James there on the wing as well. So he's going to be playing a lot of his games for South Bay this year, but he's got some upside. Another player at 23 who we didn't see, Bol dropped down 2 spots, again, just because people jumped ahead of him. Still hasn't signed with the Denver Nuggets. We don't know what his role is going to be. He's probably not going to play very much at all this season. Now, the Nuggets could look to move guys like Mason Plumlee to consolidate their front court, but that doesn't mean that Bol's going to be an every night guy. An excellent shooter who can block shots, but a bad defender. Really struggles in that area. I think that's overall going to limit his ability to play on a court in the NBA, plus the injuries, plus the motor concerns, all that sort of stuff about Bol. But he's absolutely, in a draft class this week, he is absolutely worth taking a flyer on. At number 26, Nasir Little, one of my biggest drops in these rankings, dropped 6 spots down to number 22. He just did not look good at all. 4 games, 18 minutes a game, 3 points, 3 rebounds. Now, he is a very good rebounder. That's a strength that he has, but the shooting was bad in college. It was bad at Summer League. The potential's there, but at some point you got to go, well, yeah, I know he was a top 5 high school recruit, but as I've mentioned before, the research done by Stefan No of The Athletic about guys who are top 5 college recruits who didn't go in the top 5 or top 10 in a draft, they're shit. Well, that's generally what happens. It was top 3 college recruits who weren't picked in the top 3 of the draft. They just don't turn out well, and Little did not look good at all. There are some opportunities on the wing in Portland this season. He's not going to get those opportunities. He's a long way away, so I dropped him down. Another player that didn't play at all, Paul Washington Jr., PJ Washington of the Charlotte Hornets, 21st rank here. I dropped him a couple of spots down. The talk from Charlotte is he's going to play a lot of games in the G League this season with Kid Gilchrist, Miles Bridges, and Marvin Williams handling those power forward minutes. Cody Zeller, Bismack Biyombo, and Bill Hernan-Gomez at center. Washington, again, I gave him a bit of a boost from what I actually thought of him based on the Kentucky stuff, but we didn't see him here, and a few other guys jumped right ahead of him. All right, let's go on to the top 20 now. At number 20, one of the biggest rises is, of course, Carson Edwards of the Boston Celtics, a guy that was a steal in the second round. The Sixers could have really done with him, and the fact that they traded away that pick was poor management from Elton Brand, in my opinion. But he's jumped 14 spots up to number 20. He averaged 19.4 points, a steal a game, shot 47% from 3, and did that in just 23 minutes. 4 rebounds. Now, he's not a high assist type of guy, but he's a guy that can score. He won't have to take as many difficult attempts as what he did during his time at Purdue, but I could easily see him slotting into that backup point guard role and be in the rotation immediately for the Celtics. At this point, you've got Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown. They're your first 3 guards. And then the 4th guard, it's Edwards. He's ahead of Romeo Langford. Is he ahead of Brad Wanamaker? He should be. I think Edwards is going to play quite a bit this season, especially if you're deeper leagues, you need to be paying attention to Carson Edwards. And I could see at some point him moving into he could be a starter in the NBA. He looked really, really good out there. Now, volume scoring is something that does tend to thrive at Summer League. Shout out to Chris Clemens. But I thought I saw a little bit more from Edwards that makes me think that he can be a decent NBA player. The next guy we look at number 19, Chuma Okeke of the Orlando Magic. Dropped him down a couple of spots. He didn't play, of course, as he recoups from his ACL injury. Finding a spot for him with the Chief, Al-Farouq Aminu.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
Aaron Gordon, John Isaac on this squad. There is no opportunities for Okeke for the next couple of seasons, but his steal and block rate, offensive upside, I think is really interesting. So he's worth taking a flyer on if you've got that time to be able to wait on it. At number 18, Rui Hachimura jumped up 9 spots up to number 18. Put up some good numbers in Summer League, 19 points with 7 boards, and I think probably the most impressive thing here is 1.7 blocks. Now, I still worry a lot about Hachimura. The reason I did bump him up here is looking at what the Wizards did in free agency, and the answer to that is nothing. He is going to have an opportunity to come in and be an impactful player and play minutes immediately. They lost Bobby Portis, they lost Jabari Parker. That there is an opportunity for him to be in the rotation immediately, and rookies with big names like Hachimura who get picked well ahead of where they should have in the top 10 in Hachimura's instance, you can get inflated value, and I could see him coming in and putting up pretty decent numbers, making an all-rookie second team even as a first-year player, and then never really improving from there. So that's why I'm putting him this side, because you get him, you can get a year of value, and then you can get trade value out of him. The block numbers were impressive. I still worry about his defense. I worry about his ability to shoot. I worry about whether those numbers from Gonzaga are able to translate. And he still, of course, wasn't the best player on his own college team, but still somehow got picked about 15 spots ahead of the guy who was the best player on that college team. But in all fairness to Hachimura, I probably had him a little bit too low, so I have moved him up now inside the top 20. At number 17, DeAndre Hunter. I moved him up 1 spot from 18 to 17. Not really based on what we saw from him in Summer League, because he didn't play. He played 1 game after being held out due to the trade. He had 6 points in 20 minutes. I hated the use of assets to get Hunter at pick number 4 from the Hawks. He's barely a top 10 sort of a guy. His fantasy translations aren't great. Now, the Virginia defensive scheme, it really reduced his steal and block numbers. I think they can come up. I don't think he'll ever be a high usage guy, a high assist guy. The 3-point shooting is going to be interesting for him. Whether that translates to the NBA remains to be seen. But I would not be picking him in the top 10 in rookie drafts. As you can see, I've got him there at number 17. His teammate at number 16, who I did drop one spot down, is Bruno Fernando. Really, really good stuff from Fernando in Summer League. Only played the 3 games, but 27 minutes, 3.3 blocks. That's the interesting thing. 1.3 steals. Now, 4 points on 31% shooting as a big man is obviously not very good, and that needs some improvement. But a guy who's going to have an opportunity with Alex Len as the starting centre, Fernando's going to have an opportunity to play immediately and to even come in and start some games, I think, this season, and to block some shots. And if he can get that efficiency up, if he can, and look, he's huge. He's massive shoulders. They traded away Amari Spellman at the Wizards so they could get Damian Jones, who's going to be behind Fernando, if not immediately, pretty early on in the season. There's a great opportunity for Fernando, and that great opportunity, I think, will enable him to become a guy that can come in and be a defensive rim challenger, and that's a really important role for someone like Bruno Fernando. At number 15, Grant Williams of the Boston Celtics. I dropped him one spot, but that's got nothing to do with how he played. He's just a guy that knows how to play. He's a guy that makes teams better. And I think that he is going to be an immediate rotation player for the Boston Celtics. 24 minutes a game for Williams, 13 points, 6 boards, 2 assists, a steal, half a block, 47 and 76% from the line, 37% from 3. That was the concern. Would the 3-point shooting come? The plus minus for him was still off the charts. He just is smart. He knows where to be. He makes players better. He will be in the rotation, I think, as the backup power forward from night one for the Celtics. And I think as we move forward, he will be a starter in the NBA and has absolute, probably ceiling-wise, top 80 type value ceiling-wise. I compare him to Paul Millsap a little bit, as a guy that's a bit underrated coming into a draft. Now, Paul Millsap, of course, was a top 12 guy for many years. I'm not sure Williams can get there, but I do really like him, and there is an opportunity for him to contribute immediately. The next guy we look at, Matisse Thybulle of the Sixers at number 14. He dropped down one spot, but nothing to do with how he played, really. 2.2 threes a game is fantastic from Thybulle, 39%. His college shooting numbers are all over the place. He shot 92% from the line. These are really encouraging signs, and probably the best thing is he had these monster steal numbers, monster block numbers, and there's some debate, was it the Washington zone scheme that caused him to get those numbers? Well, in Summer League, he got 2 steals and 1.2 blocks per game. So maybe it's not just the Washington zone that meant that this guy just knows how to get defensive numbers, and we know how valuable steals and blocks can be, and the fact that he can shoot, whether he can shoot or not remains to be seen. I think he can, but be this catch and shoot guy, he could be in the rotation immediately. Now the question is it him? Is it DRC Zaire Smith? I still think Smith has more upside than Thybulle, but he looked really good, and I think he'll be contributing for the Sixers. And I wouldn't be stunned if Smith and Thybulle end up ahead of James Ennis in the rotation at some point this season. A long way to go, but it was impressive from Matisse Thybulle here in Summer League. The next guy we look at, up 11 spots, Tyler Herro of the Miami Heat. Now, I was pretty down on Herro as a pick at that spot from the Heat in the draft, but he is up to number 13 here, and he looked really good. Now, there's a couple of things we have to remember. He averaged 19.5 points. That's excellent. He had the green light to shoot whenever he wanted, and he took that green light. 40% field goal percentage isn't great. 33% from the three-point line isn't great, but like at college, he doesn't miss free throws. 96% from the line. But what I liked was his tenaciousness, his ability to really attack the ball. 1.5 steals, but his playmaking, the ball in his hands. 4 assists per game and 4 rebounds. Now, on this Heat team at the moment, Goran Dragic isn't long for this squad. I think that a guy like Justice Winslow, I'm not convinced that he's ever going to be a good player. Yes, they got Jimmy Butler, but Joshie Richardson's gone. Dion Waiters, how long is he going to be around? I think there's a real chance that Tyler Herro starts at points for the Heat this season. The efficiency from the shooting is still going to be a problem, and those assists aren't going to be around with Winslow, with Dragic, and with Butler all being able to handle the ball, and all handling the ball in preference to Herro. But what they did with him, the way they used him at Summer League was really, really interesting, and he gets a big bump up. And again, it's the Kentucky factor. When I ranked him as low as I did, I said, with these Kentucky guys, we have to be really careful, because how much of this is Calipari just completely ruining their overall ability to grow? And people say, oh, you can't shit on Calipari. He gets these guys drafted. He does, but he also just limits what they actually do on the court. And it's time and time and time again. And Herro looks to be that next guy that had his numbers and his playing style and his game really lopped off by Calipari. So really impressive stuff from Tyler Herro to be able to attack and handle the ball the way that he did. At number 12, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Alexander-Walker was the number 1 fantasy player through all of Summer League. He was unbelievable. Now, I already had him ranked pretty high. I had him at number 12. He remains at number 12. And I looked at it and go, well, which guys can I jump him ahead of? Now, I really debated pushing him ahead of Sekou Doumbouya. The fact that Doumbouya is about 2 years younger left him there at number 11. There are guys like Darius Garland, Jarrett Culver, Cam Reddish, Kobe White. Alexander Walker could very easily be better than all of those players. But I'm not ready to do that just yet for him. 4 games, 30 minutes, 24 points per game, over 3 threes, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals. They are amazing numbers. Now, of course, he is not going to have a usage of 34%. He's not probably going to shoot 41% from 3, but that's not outrageous. He could do that. He looked really, really good. It's that usage that won't stick. His passing, his work with Jackson Hayes was amazing. Now, Drew Holiday, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, all of these guys are on this Pelicans team and they are ahead of him in the rotation. So we're not going to see much Alexander Walker this season. And Alvin Gentry or David Griffin, I can't remember which one it was, that came out and said, look, that was great. We love what he did. He's just not going to have this opportunity in the regular season. And that's pretty much common sense. So if you're looking at Alexander Walker, and you should be because he's really good, and I love the pick of him here. I would have picked him ahead of some other guys that got selected. Rui Hachimura, for example. I would have had him ahead of Tyler Herro, and I still have him here. And he looked excellent in Summer League. As I said, the number 1 overall player. Hey, interestingly, the number 2 fantasy player in Summer League was Cameron Payne, my man, stepping up. But Alexander Walker looked great, and I could see him easily becoming the 5th best player in this class. At number 11, Doumbouya of the Detroit Pistons. We actually got 1 game out of him. Finally, they just kept holding him out. He played 13 minutes in that game. He's still only 18 and doesn't turn 19 until December. 9 points in that game. I just like what this guy does. Now, that 1 game, it's hard to make too much in terms of judgment out of it, but the athletic body, the size, defensive capabilities, I think he can become somewhat of a willing passer. He can get defensive stats. I really like Doumbouya. I think he might fall in some rookie dynasty drafts because we didn't see him in Summer League with guys like Herro and Alexander Walker potentially going ahead of him. DeAndre Hunter and Rui will go ahead of him in many, many drafts. Obviously, that's not what I would do, but I really think that Sekou can be an interesting player. It's going to take a bit of time, though. At number 10, Jackson Hayes of the New Orleans Pelicans. Again, looked really, really good in those games that he played. Had one of the best dunks you'll ever see in a Summer League game. Averaged 16 points with 7 rebounds on 63% shooting. And what we saw from him was the sort of thing we expect. The blocks, 1.3 a game, the high field goal percentage. Now, a couple of things were different here. He could not rebound the ball at Texas at all, but averaged 7 boards a game. So that's interesting. He was a really good free throw shooter at Texas and wasn't in Summer League, but got to the line a lot, 56%. So that's something to monitor. I'll stay with what he did at Texas versus what he did in 4 games in Vegas, but it's something to watch. Now, he's not going to be an every night rotation guy. Derek Favors is the starting center. Zion Williamson, the starting power forward. Jali Okafor is still there with the Pelicans, so he's probably going to be the backup center, but Hayes will come in occasionally. Favors is really, really, really good. Hayes is not going to have that opportunity. I still wouldn't have picked Hayes at pick number 8 in the actual draft had I been the Pelicans, but he looked really good here. He does have some limitations with the passing, with the shooting, although he did attempt at least 1 3 during this time in Summer League and looked really good. I worry that he might be getting a little bit Dutch rutted in terms of the value overall, and again, taking him at say pick 6 or something might be a little bit of a, hey, this guy played in Summer League and looked good versus the guys that didn't play, but he did look good. Interestingly, my top 9 guys in my Dynasty ranks haven't changed. Cam Reddish at number 9. We didn't see him play. He's a high volume 3-point shooter, a high steal rate guy. He's going to play. He's going to be in the rotation for the Hawks. And one thing I will say about Cam Reddish, he cannot shoot 2-pointers worse than what he did last season. So I think that'll go up. I've got him at number 9. Goga Bitadze.
Problem with my Gogo-mobile. Gogo-mobile? No, not the dart. Not the dart.
Goga, the dart. Didn't see him at Summer League, which is a real pain in the ass. Really wanted to see him play. But with Domantas Sabonis, the starting power forward, Goga, I think, is going to be in the rotation immediately. Now, there are going to be decisions made with the Pacers, what they do with Miles Turner, Domantas Sabonis, restricted free agency coming up. Goga is a very good player. Now, whether that's on the Pelicans or on another team, I don't know. He's who I would have taken at 8. He could very easily be the 3rd best player in this draft class. I really, really like him. But again, we didn't get to see him. We also didn't get to see Darius Garland, who I've got at number 7. Real concerns about his frame. I think he'll play a lot of minutes this season for the Cavs. Whether he ends up as the starter on opening night remains to be seen. I doubt it, but I think he will start at some point early on. They'll go with probably Brandon Knight and the Padawan Colin Sexton. But Garland and Sexton will play together. Assist rate was poor during his time in Vanderbilt. The shooting numbers were good. How well will they stick up? Can he get steals? They're all concerns there with Garland. So I've got him at 7. Jarrett Culver, again, didn't see him play for the Timberwolves because he was too busy resting. It's been a hard road for him not playing in the last 4 months. Don't blame Culver at all, of course. It's the Timberwolves that held him out. Josh Okogie, Andy Wiggins. I think Wiggins might get traded this season. I think there's a real possibility, and I think we could see Okogie and Culver manning the 2 and the 3. Or at least pushing Bob Covington back to the 3 and getting those guys some significant minutes. He can handle the ball. The shooting is going to be the concern with Culver, but rebounding, steals, and assists can all come from him. And I really like him there at pick number 6. At number 5, one of these guys who we actually did see play was Kobe White. Now, he struggled quite a bit at times, but still averaged 15 points. It took him 31% usage to get there. 34% shooting is bad. 5 assists. The rebounding was strong. 1.4 steals. And he shot a piss-poor 10% on threes. He won't be that bad of a shooter. We know that. Nobody is a 10% three-point shooter. So he will be better. They signed Tomas Satoransky to be their starting point guard. So you would have to assume that White begins the season as the backup point guard for at least this year and maybe next year. And there's still the possibility that Chris Dunn, as piss poor of a decision that would start or play over Kobe White. So his impact this season, I think, will be pretty muted. He had some good moments. He had some struggles at times in Summer League, and he is not ready to be a starting point guard in the NBA just yet. How about my man, Brandon Clark, who should have been a top 10 pick in the actual draft. I had him at number 4 before Summer League in the Dynasty rankings. I've got him at number 4 again now. You could easily make the argument that he should be at number 3. He was the Summer League MVP, averaging 15 points in 21 minutes. Hit a 3 a game, had 9 boards, 1.6 blocks, 57 and 72. The guy is just good. He contributes right across the board. Now, Jonas Valanciunas and Triple J, Jaren Jackson, are the starting front court for the Grizzlies. Jay Crowder is also there in the mix. Andre Iguodala is also there in the mix. Where does Clark fit in? But it's not just about this. Look, you could find a way, and I think you should find a way to get him 20 minutes a night this season. Whether the Grizzlies do that, that still remains to be seen with Crowder, with Iguodala. Are they holding on to those guys? Kyle Anderson, of course, still in the mix. But if Clark plays 21 minutes a night, he can actually be a fantasy relevant redraft player for this season. He might not get a regular 21 minutes a night, but I think by the end of the season, we'll start to see that coming from Brandon. Really, really strong. Just did everything in Summer League that we saw him do in college. Translating that to the next level remains to be seen, but nonsense from NBA teams to let him fall as far as they did, and you should not let him fall outside of the top 5 in any Dynasty rookie drafts. In fact, all of the Dynasty rookie drafts that have gone on in the Red Rock Dynasty leagues, I'm pretty sure he's gone at number 4 in every one of those. At number 3, it's RJ Barrett. Really, really bad to start off Summer League. Came on strong, but did the things that we thought he could do. Scored 17 points, 9.5 rebounds, really good rebounder, 5 assists, looked good. Now the shooting was bad, 37 from the field, 65 from the line, and 29% from 3. They are all the concerns we had with Barrett. The tunnel vision, the black holeness. He got those assists, but it still doesn't mean he's making consistently good decisions with the ball. And now he goes on a team with Julius Randle, with the Fort Kevin Knox, with Dennis Smith, with Bobby Portis, guys who aren't really all known for their vision and ability to give this guy the ball. I worry that this overall lack of shooting from Barrett and the poor decision-making is going to be a concern, but in a points league especially, his ability to get points, rebounds, and assists will be there. He also provided some okay defensive numbers, which was a real problem for him in college, so that was encouraging, and I'm not moving him away from the number three spot. His first couple of games in Summer League were bad. The next couple were pretty good, and that's impressive from Barrett to be able to bounce back. Still really young, so I've got him still at number 3. Ja Morant, we didn't see play. I've got no problem with that. He was coming off knee surgery. No worries at all about that. I think he can still be pretty good. I think there's probably a little bit of excess hype on Morant. I think he'll be a top 70-ish guy this season, but the acquisition of Tyus Jones makes him a bit more of a risky pick. And number 1 is Zion Williamson, of course. Now, Zion Williamson, the game that he played, the half that he played, people were disappointed. They were pumped to see him out there. The crowd was absolutely electric to see Zion out there. I've never seen an atmosphere like that. Everyone's standing in the layup line, throwing down dunks like crazy during that first game. And then the first game, you saw him taking some threes and missing them in an air ball. And you go, oh man, is he actually not going to be able to shoot? And then you look at the stats, and he played 9 minutes and had 11 points, including 4 dunks and an embarrassing steal on Kevin Knox. You mean, he didn't play well, but he's got 11 points in 9 minutes here and a dominant steal. And you go, well, that's pretty bloody good. He was taking shots that he probably won't be taking in the NBA. Had that knee knock that limited him. Some people are down on Williamson. Oh, he's not going to be able to withstand the size of his body. But we have to remember, right? This is something I spoke with Danny LaRue about at Summer League. We're talking about Zion. We're talking about the concerns about injury and that sort of stuff. And you go, yeah, people that big can't sustain injury. But then the point that I made, I don't know if it was me or Danny that made it. We said that's fine, but we've also never seen someone at this size be able to jump the way that he does, to move the way that he does, to be that fast. So maybe the fact that he has this size and these crazy athletic gifts mean that maybe he is just someone who has weird muscle bursts, weird fibers, weird tendons that are going to actually protect him in this situation, because people this size can't or shouldn't be able to do the things that he does. So maybe the injury risk we would ascribe to someone of that size shouldn't be ascribed to Zion, because someone of that size shouldn't be getting their whole head above the rim on a dunk. So there is that part of it as well. To me, he's the clear-cut number one. Don't overthink it. Don't make the mistake. Now, in a redraft league, I've heard of people taking him in the first round, and that to me is crazy. The efficiency might struggle to keep at that same level that we saw from him in college, but in a Dynasty league, you got to take him in the first round. As I said on the show the other day, you got to look at him as probably a top 10 Dynasty guy, and a real salary top 7-ish, top 6. I think that's the sort of number I threw out there. He is going to end up going no later than third round in redraft leagues, and he is going to end up, in most cases, going in the second round. That's probably going to be too rich for me, but he is the clear number one Dynasty guy. That'll do it for another episode, another week of Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Make sure you're subscribing on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, and on Spotify, and on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up, tell your friends, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you never miss an episode. Follow me on Twitter at redrock_bball. Follow the Locked On Podcast Network at Locked On NBA Net as well. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Rondé Hollis Jefferson.